it supposedly was just insane. And so he would tell stories and he'd say we'd have milk runs. We'd go up Italy and it'd be easy. Nobody'd even be in the air, and we'd go and drop some bombs and on a train, whatever depot, and then turn around. But the Palessi oil fields, I think they did 5 or 6 times, and he's just said we're just horrifying. He came back one time. I think that's the reason he has a distinguished flying cross with hundreds of bullet holes in the car in the plane, including one right next to basically his little bubble that he's sitting in. He was a tail gunner.
Yeah.
So
that makes starting your own business a little easier, doesn't it, everybody? All right. So that's why we wanted to set the tone. Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop. As they say, Alan, I'm in for whatever. That's what we like to say here. What? No, everybody. You are back. You're listening. Congratulations to you. Let me say this first. You know what, you guys.
Are we having a somber moment?
No.
Oh.
But I just want to say if you are listening to this podcast, you're either got a small business or you're thinking of starting a small business. And it is arguably the hardest thing to do in all of the United States, because it is easier to be the Coca-Cola CEO, the IBM CEO, than it is to start your own business from scratch. So kudos to you for trying it out and listening, and hopefully we can guide you through some of those problems that we've run into. You know what I'm talking about, Alan? I'm talking about like flack. I'm talking like, can I make it through 50 missions? Can I make it through 25 missions? I mean, and come back alive. That's what we're talking about. The greatest generation. We're talking about World War II before we got on. And we're talking about today, we have Chad Brown, and his grandfather ran 50 missions during World War II.
Which, by the way, for the listener, and Chris, he goes all over the place. We are going to talk about commercial real estate, but this is way cooler.
Well, that's, commercial real estate. You got to navigate through. And
incidentally, my grandfather was in commercial real estate, by the way. That's not just making that up.
Before he went into the war?
After he got back.
Can you imagine how little stress you would have on anything in life after surviving 50 missions as a ball turret gunner?
How about that?
Yeah.
He owned some motels that were a little sketchy, so I don't know if those were scarier at some point, but yeah.
There's a fair amount of flack in some of those, isn't there?
Hourly rental rates.
But similar to what we do, that they didn't do, is we're sharing all of our knowledge with you. We'd love to talk. We'd love to tell you about all those things we want you to watch out for. And my grandfathers were both in World War II, and you could never get them to talk about the war. They never would do it. And growing up in the 70s in the northern part of the United States, we talked more about World War II. And Civil War, we had, I think, like 30 minutes, maybe a cup of coffee on. But we'd always talk about World War II. And so I was infatuated with it, like many of us probably were then.
Are you talking about when you were in school?
In school.
Yeah.
And I go back and try to get my grandfathers to talk about it. And it was pulling. And finally, I got my grandfather to say, well, go get this box down here. It's in the middle of the storage room, in the cellar. And I bring it up, and I open it up, and he had gotten all these things. He just never, my dad hadn't even seen them. And he goes, well, and my grandfather was first generation Italian, Sicilian. So he wasn't allowed to go over into Italy.
Yeah.
They kept him in Germany.
I was going to say the Pacific.
Yeah, usually. Yeah. So my other grandfather had to go to the Pacific, and he was the bowels. But he goes, well, it was a lot like cowboys and Indians, I guess.
Sure. Just like it. I'm sure.
I'm sure. No big deal.
So could you ever get your grandfather to talk about it?
So interestingly enough, his name is Paul Grubb. He did win the Distinguished Flying Cross. He is if you look, if you Google his name, he did end up talking about it to, I think it was the Smithsonian, tried to capture video of the people before. Of course, they passed away. So they tried to go around and get as many accounts as they could, and he's on there. It's not very detailed. He tells a couple of little funny stories, but it's not a whole lot. But the saddest part is I actually did, for a high school project, get him to talk extensively on this cassette tape that I remember. It's green and black. I remember exactly what it looks like. I put it in a Ziploc bag because I want to preserve it for the future. It has been lost.
Oh,
my parent, I knew where it was last seen. It was in my parents' attic. They've cleaned everything out, and I cannot find it. Unfortunately, I was able to get him to talk some. He talked about how scared he was, but he hated at the end of the day, the fact that he killed people, he knows he would say, absolutely no, I needed to be there. I was absolutely necessary. It devastated me every day.
Yeah. I think that's why when they call that the greatest generation, I mean, they all had lives, and then this happened, and then they got drafted. I mean,
well, he joined. No, he joined.
he joined. All right.
He
So
joined. He worked. He was at a grocery store that his dad owned, and I think at age 18, he just said,
I was just going to say, how old was he? So
18.
18 years old, and he's
Yeah.
going through that.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
just said, sign me up. So he volunteered. He didn't get there till 43 because he had to go through training and then go to North Africa, and then he came up through Italy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where they came up, and then he bombed the Palesti oil fields, which is literally the most dangerous bombing run that existed.
Oh, it's so long.
And
Yeah.
so
I
it has more flack than they say that
Is in
than Berlin
Romania.
did.
So,
Okay.
yeah, right? In
Yeah,
Romania. Yeah. So you're going from England to Romania. You're crossing a lot of ground, a lot of
Oh boy.
flack.
Well,
yeah.
the flak around the oil fields was supposed to be the most dangerous, more so than around Berlin or on D-Day at the coast. It supposedly was just insane. And so he would tell stories and he'd say we'd have milk runs. We'd go up Italy and it'd be easy. Nobody'd even be in the air. And we'd go and drop some bombs and on a train, whatever depot, and then turn around. But the Palesti oil fields, I think they did 5 or 6 times. And he's just said, we're just horrifying. And he came back one time. I think that's the reason he has a distinguished flying cross with hundreds of bullet holes in the car, in the plane, including, one right next to basically his little bubble that he's sitting in. He was a tail gunner.
Yeah.
So
So that makes starting your own business a little easier, doesn't it, everybody? All right. So that's why we wanted to set the tone. We've had Chad on in the past. It was one of our most popular episodes. We've been doing this now for 2.5 years. And now, if you're listening to this, you are now listening to something that has now in the top 5% of what everybody else is
Yeah.
doing.
A lot of folks on the bandwagon all of a sudden.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of great listens. I'm starting to get a few more emails from everybody. So we wanted to bring back
You're
Chad.
being modest about that. You've it's amazing how often somebody reaches out to you.
Yeah, I just had another one saying, based on one of the things you said in the podcast, and then we talked on the phone.
I divorced my wife and quit my job.
No, it was a more uplifting story.
Oh,
Is that we went and got bigger space so that we could do a better job of building our culture and putting training into our company. And
nice.
so they did
really
that.
freaking cool.
And
Man.
that, yeah, I just out of the blue, the guy sent that, and I was like, man, look at you, way to go, keep it up. So shout out there. That was great to hear all about all that. That's again super cool. But we wanted to bring Chad back because Alan has dutifully sat here and had to put up with all my shit and talk. But we don't get to talk commercial real estate much. So we brought Chad on many episodes ago, and it happened to be one of our most popular episodes because for a lot of us business owners, we don't understand this shit. We really don't.
It's super important.
It is.
I mean, you can kill your business before you even start your business if you do your real estate wrong.
And this is why I think we wanted to come back on, because I haven't had a lot of direct questions on it, but clearly because of all the listens, we've got some interest. So we wanted to bring Chad and have you guys talk to us a little bit more. And I'm going to interview you guys. So my big thing is you guys are here in Atlanta. You do commercial real estate. We defined that last time that commercial real estate has a lot of different layers. You're not all just one look. But for us busy business owners, you're starting a business, or maybe I'm going to scale and I'm going to go get that new property, or I'm going to scale up my lease. What are the questions I need to know? What questions should I be asking when I go find people or start talking to them?
Do you have what it takes to start your own business? Are you tired of the 9-to-5 corporate job and ready to make that leap into entrepreneurship? You need to check out From the Zoo to the Wild, the book by successful entrepreneur Chris Lalomia. This book is a unique perspective on the journey into the wild world of home services and delivering excellence in service while working in customers' homes. Lalomia shares his path to success in this industry, including proven customer relationship strategies, award-winning customer experience processes, and a unique approach to training a team of service technicians to perform at the highest levels. Whether you're a small business trying to scale or a franchise operation, From the Zoo to the Wild will give you the mindset, habits, leadership style, and customer-oriented processes to succeed as a small business owner in the world of home services. So if you're ready to take control of your future, get a copy of From the Zoo to the Wild today, available on Amazon.
I'd certainly start with what are your needs, and you have to really have it well defined because it is tough as a commercial real estate agent broker when somebody doesn't have a defined sense of what their need is. They just, yeah, I need some space, probably near Chamblee. I don't know. Yeah, 5,000 square feet, maybe 20. You know, I mean, this happens often, by the way. It's
Yeah, and I want to interject before Chad keeps going because it sounds like a throwaway question and a throwaway answer. But the funny thing is, we'll ask somebody on the first meeting, what do you need? And then they tell us what they need. And then we find out after meeting with them and looking at a couple of properties, what they need is 100% different than what they thought they needed.
it is
Constant.
insane how often it happens that you go, let's just say they say, I need a 5,000 square foot space. It just needs to be pure office. It needs to be on the first floor. It needs to be in this area. And then you find 5,000 square feet. It's the office. Send it to them. Oh, no. That's not nearly right. And you're sitting, you're shocked because you literally, I have notes from this meeting
Right.
and you say,
You said first
you
floor,
said,
5,000.
yeah, whatever. Oh, no. We actually need some warehouse. And then also that's actually not right in the right geography. I didn't mean Chamblee. I meant it needs to be west of whatever it is. And then you start. And so what we do is we're constantly interpreting what they really mean, which is interesting. It would be a lot better if it was just clearly defined. Now, granted, everybody doesn't know exactly what they want all the time. And
We don't.
That's the challenge.
I would say as a business owner, no, we
Yeah.
don't. And so you guys are like the Duolingo
Mhm.
Yeah.
of interpretation
See.
for commercial real estate. So you have to interpret what we're thinking.
We do not want to go down that
But
road.
that is the
Inside joke.
yeah, no, I understand. I get it too. Yeah.
Chad gets the screenshots I send him
No.
on Duolingo.
So, but so that really it would be nice. I know it's not that easy, but it would be nice to have definitions, particularly if you are a franchisee. They do provide pretty detailed information for franchisees saying this is what we want.
Mhm.
That packet's nice. We don't do a ton with franchisees, but when we do, that's nice to have. But if you're just your own business owner, sometimes you don't know. And while we are good, I think, at assisting, because we've seen so many, as a former banker, seen so many businesses, and what we've done over all the years, we have the ability to help you, but we can't get inside your head and know exactly what you want. We still don't run your business. So, while we can give advice, we don't actually run your business.
I know I said 5,000 square feet in first floor,
Yeah.
but what I really meant was second floor with warehouse space
Yeah.
on the west side of
Yeah.
85.
And by the way, I forgot
which
to
is not
mention it has
Chamblee.
to have an elevator, and I forgot to mention 12 other things that
Right.
that are absolutely imperative. So that happens often. So that would be my first thing. My second, from a leasing standpoint, I do finding good representation for your side of things is extremely helpful. I think Alan agrees.
Yeah, we're making eye contact because we know the stories.
There's been a lot of frequently, we don't do a ton of leasing. We generally do it for current clients who have purchased a building that we help them purchase, and then they have a vacancy, and so we'll help it. And we also don't turn down referrals. So if somebody says, "Hey, 1,000 square feet here," we're going to do it for you because we respect the fact that somebody sent us that referral. But what we found is representing owners, a lot of times the tenants aren't well represented or not represented at all, and either way, not good.
So that's funny because you guys, let's dive into this a little bit more.
Yeah.
What is not good? You guys have been up against it. Listen, they're not listening to this podcast, the clowns you came up against, because they clearly are playing at business. They're not invested in business like everybody listening to this podcast. So what made these guys clowns?
Before
I call them clowns,
before
you didn't.
Chad defines not good, I'll just kind of give you a little bit of a perspective. So he's a really smart guy, Georgia Tech grad, been in banking, understands. I mean, he can do the math. What just happened?
Michael, you are going to have to kill this part. I hit the wrong button. I moved too much. Okay, we're back. Go.
So before Chad answers that question, I want to put a little color on this. So he's an extremely smart guy, Georgia Tech grad. He was in banking for 20 years. And so he can do all the math in his head. He understands the financial side of a real estate transaction much more than your average real estate agent out there. I come from an angle of small business ownership. I was also in big corporate. and you know me, I was very involved in the chamber and the small business association. So I'm very much rooting for our clients, and I understand business, and sometimes I think I understand what they need more than they do. And once in a while, we're representing, and when we're representing, maybe it's the owner of the building that we help them buy, and they ask us to lease out a space, and somebody comes along who wants to have a business in that space, and we're excited for them, and they think they know everything, and they don't, or they have a broker that all they care about is getting a commission, and they're not doing anything to advocate for their client. And it's not like we're taking their milk money and running, but it kills us because our primary obligation is to our client.
Yeah, our representation, we represent the owner of the building. We're supposed to represent them to the utmost of our ability. Where we're pained is watching a broker on the other side not represent.
So give me an example, and
Well, we have a perfect one. We actually have a perfect one.
Right,
Like you said, they're not listening, so whatever.
No, right, because they're playing at business.
We had a
They're clowns.
great property in downtown Alpharetta, near downtown Alpharetta, that we had a medical opportunity, or tenant came along represented by a broker, and we said, look, we're asking this per square foot. We're asking for 5 years. We're asking for 3% escalations. We're asking so on, and also pay for your own build out. You know what they said? Okay.
Whoa.
So, and listen, I'm not about offering unreasonable offers that you're not going to get just to play the game. But the fact is, the representation probably should have pushed back in at least some fashion. And the worst part of this story, because like Alan says, we both think, and I as a banker of small businesses for a while, I did some bigger stuff for a period of time, but I also did small businesses for a while. You're rooting for them, right? I'm always rooting for the small business. So you kind of feel, gosh, I wish that they would probably push back a little more, but our job is still to represent the owner. And so, we accepted the deal. We're not going to turn it down.
Yeah, those were the owner's terms. We presented the owner's terms, and we were fully expecting, and a broker on the other side at that moment in time should have known that the market was offering a month of free rent per year of the lease.
Yeah.
That's kind of standard in this case.
Yeah, and the broker should know that a certain amount of tenant improvement money would be expected. I mean, there was nothing. They just said okay.
So, but the story, there's a couple of different layers to this, but the story is that unfortunately, the medical client opened another location at the same time and spent a ton of money. I think almost $300,000 on the build out on our location. May have spent it at the other location as well, and unfortunately overstretched. And guess what? He's in trouble.
Oh.
So what's happening is, we got the most for our client, but what's happening now is, well, it doesn't matter if the tenant's not there for the 5 years. At some point, that's not the best way to do things. And so we actually had a meeting today with somebody unrepresented, and we're kind of not helping him, but
kind of helping
him, because the reality is he needs some advice, and he's kind of coming and going, oh, should I pay for that? And should I pay for that? While we're still representing the owner and we still want to do our best, we also want him to last. And so there's a balance. And so we're sitting there going, we want everybody to win. That's our philosophy, just 100% of the time. And by the way, back to my grandfather, he was the one who told me always leave a nickel on the table years ago in commercial real estate. And it's perfect. It's always everybody wins. You don't need to take somebody. You want everybody to be successful.
Right. But somebody listening to this going, well, wait a minute. How come Alan and Chad didn't jump in and help this other guy? Hang on, guys. Right. Again, this is how it works in worlds. I'm in home remodeling, and when I give a bid for a bathroom and somebody says, okay, I'm going to say, okay, great. I assume that you did your due diligence and you decided that that's what's going to happen. And this is good.
So,
don't
well, and the
come back
fact
after
is,
the fact and say, wait a minute, Chris, you overcharged me. Well, no, you accepted my bid. So this is business, guys. These guys can't reach across and go, hey, by the way, the clown that's representing you should have asked for this.
And we didn't ask for anything unreasonable. So it's
right.
Not, we don't start from a position of
it was a wiggle room. It was a fudge factor.
But in general, there's going to be some wiggle room. Just period. It's just going to happen, even in a high demand market.
Well, and in this case, the guy agrees to all the terms, which weren't unreasonable, but then he hires a contractor who ended up taking, I don't know how many more months. So he ended up paying month after month after month of rent before he even opened because
The contractor took maybe 8 months.
yeah, it was crazy. I mean, he
Far
was
too
just
long. I know.
bleeding.
Again, and so this guy going into business,
He's brand new. He has some financial wherewithal. He decided to buy a franchise.
okay.
Well, and a lot of new franchise owners have a good pile of cash and a lot of confidence because they were just Mr. Big at some XYZ company. And so they may not even be listening to good advice. But in this case, the guy, he had representation who was going to fill out a contract, but he wasn't advocating for him.
Yeah, this is so you're telling me that the guy I should have for commercial real estate shouldn't be my buddy from the church or the chick that just showed up. It's how do I bet that you guys know what you're talking about? Because Alan, you've been with me for a long time, and I remember when you started working with Chad, and of course you told me all about. I mean, your bona fides are solid, and in fact, I would say more solid than everybody in the country, right? But I don't know New York. Bottom line is, I know you guys are good, but I know what I was thinking and what I wanted to see, and you guys looked, felt, smelled the part, and knew that. How do people look for people like you?
I think you have to do an interview because I don't think just numbers, just Googling or looking up transactions in an area necessarily means anything. Because if you're where the market's in Millichap or whatever it is, they're feeding you. They advertise tons and they're feeding you opportunities. It doesn't mean you're good just because this sold or you lease this much space, right? The person who represented them on this medical deal, they leased the space. They were representatives, weren't good ones. So, what I would say is you have to sit down and talk because I think that's the only way you can connect. I don't know. I don't know another way to do it because just they've done a bunch of transactions, which we have that too, which is nice that somebody wants to Google if they search transactions closed with Reardon White Real Estate. There's a lot, but I don't think that's how you qualify anybody. I think you have to look
Yeah,
at them. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, no, it's 100% true because, volume transaction means they have experience, but it doesn't mean they have your best interest at heart.
yeah, there's people I get on the phone with who offer up their client's lowest price within 5 seconds.
Wow.
You're not doing your best to represent now.
You're just trying to get your commission check, get out,
Yep.
and doing the least amount of work possible so you get to the golf course.
And what percentage of time, Chad, do you think when somebody inquires, the first question is
what's our commission rate?
Yeah.
I don't even know what the amount of times we've gotten close to closing and I didn't realize I didn't know what our commission rate was, which sounds stupid, by the way, is countless.
No, it doesn't sound stupid. It sounds more like purposeful, and not purposeful that you're doing that. Is that because you, like you guys just said, again, you go through the bona fides of what you guys do and have done. I mean, this is a group you want to transact with, and you, like you said, and I'll equate it back to SEO because for many of us in business, right, the internet is the way we get our business and our people and what we do. And you talk to an SEO guy, and when they're full of shit and they can't tell you what they're really going to do, you know it. You can start smelling it, and you're like, wait a minute, if you're making this so hard for me, the thing I learned when I went to the banking and coming up through my life and getting into banking, coming from manufacturing, yeah, I had a guy tell me, he said, Chris, you're a smart guy. If somebody explains something to you and says, well, it's kind of hard for you to understand, he goes, that's the guy who's full of shit. And you know what? That's right. And so that's why everybody on this, listen to this podcast, you're smart. Listen to these guys, talk to them. And if they smell like they don't know what they're talking about, but if you sat down with one conversation with Chad or Alan or both, you'll find out really quickly that they know the market and they'll tell you where the limitations are. They'll tell you what the market's looking for. They'll start talking the language and you're like, hey, wait a minute. I didn't know all this stuff, but now I know you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and we're pretty open about, we don't know that area very well, or,
Yep.
We don't actually specialize in this particular vertical,
Yeah, and we'll refer out somebody else. But that's enough about us as far as we're not advertising.
No, I'm not trying to push
I want your people to learn.
And I want them to, but the point, and it sounded like I was trying to push you guys, and that's not what I was, but I think that's what you do, like, as a busy business owner who has a huge ego, not me, of course, but everybody listening.
Hypothetically, there's a huge.
But you think, you know what? I drove around. I know I want to be in Duluth. I saw this guy's name on the sign. I called him. I'm going to close this guy. I can figure out how to negotiate with this clown because he's a clown. I'm a smart business owner. I'm just going to call the guy directly and do it myself.
Yeah, and
I don't want to pay you guys that commission.
And it's a mistake. It's just flat a mistake. And
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you can't across the board, right? The representation on this particular deal we've spoken about, maybe that was a mistake in the fact that the seller, or I'm sorry, in this case, the property owner had to pay the commission to them. Um, that still influences what rate you get and all those things.
So
Were you well represented? Then maybe it was not. Maybe it was a mistake hiring those particular people. But the reality is, I tell people this all the time, particularly on a purchase and sale, transaction. If you don't think I'm worth the 3% or whatever it is, then I sure as heck ain't doing my job because that's nothing. I mean, it's just
Right.
nothing. It's just not. And by the way, the seller is generally paying, but it's still factored into how much they're going to sell it for. So at the end of the day, the net amount is all that matters.
Actually, Chad just hit the shell game, right? Everyone
Yeah.
says, when they call up, if your first question to this guy is, "Hey, how much you going to charge?"
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, if you want to go cut rate, go to Craigslist, go find some property that way.
We've got some stories on that
Go
too.
to Zillow.
We've got a couple of property owners who've decided, we think because we've said, look, we're worth this, and they've said, oh, well, I think that's a little too expensive, and they've went other ways,
Which
and
it
the
isn't.
spaces are still vacant
Yeah.
2 years later. I'm pretty sure it cost you more money. Yeah, just saying.
But to
Not saying I told you so.
answer your question, I mean, Chad is right. Actually sit down, have a cup of coffee. If the person isn't willing to have a cup of coffee with you or a beer, then they're probably not the person that should be representing you.
Yeah, but
And then
I think
secondly,
it's their answers though.
and then but it's also, I think that you should ask for a reference. Hey, give me one of your clients who was in a similar situation that I'm in that I can talk to.
Yeah, one of the biggest deals we've had was a guy who owned a whole portfolio in Roswell, 120,000 square feet of office, and didn't know me from Adam. So I'd closed some things in the area and came and interviewed me and asked for a reference list. I said, pick any of them. Here's a list. Call any one of them. Matter of fact, call anyone that you found because he's found me on CoStar, here, closed deals. Call any of them. And pick a property, call them. And I promise they'll recommend me, and got the deal. $15 million portfolio.
So we've got one more kind of horror story of representation that I think.
Can't wait to hear that great horror story because I love this.
So another horror story, just to kind of illustrate why it's important to have great representation, whether it's Chad and me or not. It was during COVID. You remember this, Chad? We had one of our favorite clients who's going to buy a building. COVID hit. He backed out.
Yeah.
And but was it he who had somebody else he knew that would be willing to take over the contract?
Yes, he had a relation somehow.
Yeah. So this other guy steps in. So all of a sudden, and we're not afraid to fire clients. We don't, our tagline is we call you back and we're not assholes. And we actually don't expect our clients to be assholes either. And we don't like doing business for or with them.
We try to avoid that.
Yeah. Well, in this case, the guy that substituted in, we had no control over it. And he was just a flaming asshole. And the guy who was selling the building, we really liked, but we're not representing him. And he's selling the building because his son had
really bad,
massive health issues, and he wanted to liquidate his assets and take care of his son. I mean, your just heart is bleeding for this guy.
Right.
I mean, it's tons of money going to special hospital care and all this stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. So how can you not root for this guy? And so our client, goes under contract. And then they get the inspection. And next thing you know, our clients, and he tells us what to do, and we have to relay what our client wants us to relay. Okay, well, the inspection came back with this and this and this, which isn't unusual. And, if you just make this concession, we've got a deal. So we relay the information. The guy thinks about it, makes the concession, thinks he has a deal. Week later, we've got this and this and this. If you do, reduce it by another amount, we've got a deal. It went on and on and on and on. And Chad and I are just like, our brains are exploding. And we're just like, just tell the guy to FO because he's going for the absolute rock bottom. But we can't tell him that. His agent should have said that.
Yeah.
Just tell him no.
So there's a great example of good representation is that this guy was trying to kill this guy by death of 1,000 cuts. And a good representation guy would have come back and said, what would you guys
just flat out no? And I'll, in all honesty, there was a point that I may have included hints that it can be done. but not that I knew it could be done, but because
Because at some point, this guy will never stop.
he'll never stop. And just said, why don't you try to push back?
You had to,
Yeah.
hey, I'm giving you
Yeah.
this deal,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, wink, wink. Can't hear this on the podcast.
So, this, like he said, this is not the type of personality that we like to represent. It's not the way we do business. Probably my least favorite thing is we have 60 days due diligence. We're going to wait till day 59 and then try to retrade it and get $1 million off because we know you've already wasted 60 days and you don't want to start over again. And people do it all the time in this business. And it's our reputation. In my opinion, I don't care about the one deal. It's our reputation that's on the line. So I'm not going to be the person who represents that. And we would never represent that person again, by the way.
All right, so let's talk about what are some deceitful tactics that I should never use.
Yeah, no. I think we would be enabling you, Chris.
You would be.
Yeah.
All right, but you just said it. I put an offer in. I put a 60-day due diligence.
Yeah.
And on day 59, I come back and go, hey, came back, didn't like it. Let's drop it $1 million. I'll just do the deal.
Correct. It happens all the time.
That happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
We should expect that, or our representations going. Hey,
Your representation, you should be prepared for it, whether you're selling or buying. I mean, you should just always, but there's I guess an ethos. I don't know the right word. There's something that about the relationships that we were developing over the years of people who know that we're people who don't do that, that it lends a lot more credence when we put the same contract down. We put it down, it's 2.5. Somebody else puts it down 2.5. We're winning because done business with these guys before and know that that's not what they're going to do. The price is the price unless it's a legitimate reason for reduction. If you get an inspection, there's something truly wrong.
Right.
Listen, we're absolutely as good representation going to do it. If the doorknob didn't twist quite right, we're not going to ask for $20,000 off because that's stupid.
Got it.
So it's just, but tactics, I mean, gosh, there's so many of them. I don't know. We don't know because we don't.
I don't even want to put them out there.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right, I'll get them offline, everybody. Hey, if you want to find out what the tactics are, you got to email me, Chris at
Toolbox.com.
and I will tell you all the tactics out there that
or subscribe. Subscribe
to our newsletter, man.
Subscribe and like, and we're in.
Yeah, you do that, and then I'm going to give you the hidden.
You give us one positive review, we'll give you one shady tactic. Is that what you're offering?
That's
Chris?
what I'm offering.
Okay.
Hey, I'm not above that.
Upstanding citizen.
You know what? We've always established that, right? I'll do anything to anybody.
You're a big whore.
I was about to say that reminds me of a roofer I had once back in like 2004. It was showed up, said it was free roof, all this stuff, and your insurance is going to pay for it. And then all of a sudden, we're in a legal battle.
I did not work for that roofer. All right, let's talk about something else that I think is very interesting. You guys, Chad has a background in commercial banking, and I had worked at SunTrust, and I believe commercial bankers, a good one, can be really good and can be an advocate, and isn't just talking about your money. They're talking about your business. They understand what you're doing, and they're the ones who connect you with the right insurance agent. And they could be the connector that really becomes somebody who's not just your advocate, but almost as like your fractional CFO, or they're helping you a lot more than I said. I shouldn't say fractional CFO, but they help you a lot, right?
They can do a lot more for you than you probably think.
So one of the things, I recently bought a new house 4 years ago, and I used a mortgage banker for the mortgage broker, and he was the quarterback. He was the one who was telling everybody else what to do. And the reason I picked him is because I just knew who he was, and I've known him for so long. And I hadn't bought a house. It sounds funny, but I hadn't bought a house since 2004. I built the other one, or 2001. So I got him involved. Man, he was quarterbacking everybody. And you're like, is he worth his commission? 100%. I mean, he was telling everybody what to do. He got into the real estate agent, the representation of the real estate agent here. So why do you guys do that? Do you overstep kind of the role of a commercial real estate agent broker?
Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating. I wake up thinking about it too often because I was a banker and I was middle market and commercial. And I just remember thinking these brokers are useless because I was driving the bus the whole time. It was making sure appraisals and the attorney was on board and just everything was done
on time.
And then I would call the brokers and I wouldn't even get calls back when I wanted some more information. And then they would just show up and get this big check. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
And they may not even show up at the closing.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Lots of times didn't.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't even return my phone calls. And now I'm the broker and I feel like I'm doing all of the same things because the banker's not doing anything. There's no driving the bus. To this day, I would say I don't even know how other deals close because they literally, unless I'm calling the attorney saying, "Hey, what happened to the title? I thought the title was due last week. Oh, where's the appraisal? Whatever." Unless that's happening, there's no way you're making the date that we proposed on the contract.
All right, so let's talk about this. So again, as a busy business owner, I'm either starting a business. So we talked
Sure.
about, we kind of danced around the franchise, and we've been talking about this quite a bit. But bottom line is, guys, for us to make money, if you're in remodeling like I am or handyman, I got to be open for business and going out and finding clients and bringing in that almighty revenue and cash flow.
Sure.
And if I can't go do that because I'm fucking around with a bunch of people who can't get my deal closed, and I'm over there trying to quarterback them because, oh, by the way, I'm really smart and I have this huge ego, you're costing yourself money.
You are very smart, by the way.
I am. And I have a huge
Quite a
ego.
large ego. It's very big.
I'll admit it.
Bigger than I've ever seen.
It might be one of
really
the
self-aware.
biggest.
This might be one of the
Hey,
biggest I've ever
I
seen.
went for therapy for that. You know that. My daughter just laid that one down on me again. She goes, do you want to know where I got this from? I said, your mother? She goes, no, you. But that's the point. That's where we miss, right? With our ego and our blinders, we miss this. Is that who's that guy who's going to quarterback me to get me to open on August 1 when it's February 28 or whatever.
And I'll make 2 points on this. One is, yes, you need the agent broker to be pushing it, and you don't need to be doing it because that's not your job. You should be focusing on your job. Run your business. That's the point, right? We're just trying to get you to run your business. Let's help you the other way. But the second thing is that really that banking is very lots of red tape. It's very fine. Banking sucks, and it feels like getting an enema to go through the process of approval. All I can tell you is that you need to do that as a business owner. If you're looking to purchase a property particularly, but even leasing, it's nice to have all your ducks in a row. Banking references are nice when you bring it to the owner's table and say, look, this is my offer for leasing, but my bank says I can qualify, whatever it is, it'd be nice. But the reality is two things. It'd be great to have somebody else quarterbacking, as you said. But secondly, have literally everything the bank asks for you, get it to them. Don't care. We get it. You're smart. You're awesome. You're rich. They don't care unless you can prove it and it's in documented form on their system. So what we find a lot is that people get annoyed. And I'm one of those people, by the way, when I'm getting my last.
Get annoyed?
No, never.
What?
But I was getting my last mortgage. It was absolutely insane because I'm not a W-2 employee, right? And I can show all this income, but they just don't count it. And I'm like, but that W-2 employee could get fired tomorrow and have zero. Like the odds of me having 100% or 90% less income than I do. Yeah. We got to cut that out. No.
Yeah,
I think we just leave it go. I just whacked my glass of bourbon
dumped him
into the mic.
because Alan was so excited about
He was.
I got a lot of money. I can't tell you when I agreed. We're all annoyed on the banking.
The situation,
And we were both in banking, and
Yeah.
we knew this, and we saw it swing both ways in our careers in banking. Back in the early 2000s, it was the Wild West, and I remember when I first came on with SunTrust, we were doing $50,000 line of credit, no doc, stated income.
I could just say whatever I wanted.
Yeah, and you know how fast they defaulted? Like you couldn't even turn your head fast enough how fast they started defaulting. Yeah. And so,
which is you were one of those people. See, I know I always made the joke because the bankers were so vilified back in 2008 and 9. I'm like, I wasn't handing out loans to people. Like I did a lot of C&I lending, and so it was all my companies made it. They were really successful companies that made widgets or whatever. And
not in the
I didn't
market.
do any of that stuff. Yeah.
No, we already established Chris is a big whore.
Yeah, well,
I wasn't selling them. I was just
he was taking 3% loan fees on every one of these $50,000 loans.
And I would tell you, for just again, as a born and raised Catholic, I did not realize how bad churches are. And I get what I'm about to say, and when I know what I just said, but wow, those guys can default really fast. You sound like you had a great idea. Anyway, back to you guys. So you have the quarterback in the deal. So do you guys feel like you are the quarterbacks in your deals?
100%. Like I'm not joking. I don't understand how they get closed.
So how about another example?
Sure. Yeah, we've got them.
You go ahead.
Which one are we talking about?
The industrial in northeast inside Atlanta.
Shambler?
Well,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay. So
They're doing hand signals on the podcast, by the way. And I don't know what play is being called right now, but let's go.
no, so we've had, a situation, and this one is we're quarterbacking. There's a bank that the successful business owner has and says, I got a good buddy over there. He's high up. We're cool.
Right.
We're going to be good.
I've used that line, by the way.
Yeah, no, but we got a good
Multiple
buddy. And,
times.
and I actually, and this is no joke, before we get under contract, I said, good for you. Do they have all your information? He goes, yeah, I've got $1 million line of credit. So they already have all my stuff. And I said, we sure they have all your up-to-date information because we're going to want to make sure. And that particular bank is not known for this type of product. So one thing I can tell you, and this is a big generalization, it's not going to always be true, but the JP Morgans, the Fifth Thirds, the big cities, the whatever, they're not great at local real estate. That's just not going to be their thing. It doesn't mean there's not a right fit, and every once in a while they have this wacky program that they'll fit for owner occupied and it'll fit perfect for you. But in general, particularly investment, but even on owner occupied, your deals are not there. They're community banks, period. Fact. That's just a fact. So this person said, I have a bank that's not a community bank. And I said, gosh, owner occupied, I think we can get you a lot better deal. Just letting you know. Nope, I got a buddy. We're good. We requested 90 days of due diligence, which is plenty of time to get a deal done. Just plenty to do anything. And turns out we got bank approval that was not really approval because it was subject to, and maybe if we really feel like it in the future, we can get this deal done 105 days later.
And that was with a lot of phone calls.
And that's with a lot of phone calls where I luckily tracked down the actual banker, made the phone call and said, what the hell is going on? But we kept getting told from our owner, my buddy's got it. He's got it covered. And then finally he admitted, okay, I don't have it covered. So
there you go. Again,
it never
I know I'm the smartest guy in the room. That's where you got to check it, right? You got to check it and let somebody else help you. You got to do due diligence up front. That's why I wanted to ask that in the beginning, because it's not your buddy from the church. You got to take your buddy to the church. It might be the guy in the podcast that you've been sitting with for the last 2.5 years, and you've known for the last 12.
Hey, Alan and I sold some land that was for past church.
That was.
So we did for a good price. So it can be the buddy.
Could be the guy at church.
It can be.
Yeah, theoretically.
But you've got to make sure you vet these guys, man. And you know what? When they start giving you bullshit advice, you got to call them on it. Just like your SEO marketing guy, just like your advertising, just like your social media person. You can't, TikTok's going to take me to the top. Oh, you know what? I'm going to be an influencer. Oh, that's how I'm going to grow my whole business. Guys, it's all starting to come back in the wash, back to your marketing. But commercial real estate, that's a big deal. And that's not something that a lot of us play in. I know I didn't. And I know I've had to learn a lot the hard way. And it's cost me 3 moves.
Yeah, a mistake in real estate can be devastating.
Which, in the original conversation we had here on this podcast was about the owning versus leasing.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Just because it happened to hit that point is, you don't want to make a big mistake long term and purchase a property that when you don't know necessarily what size you're going to be. You don't know how fast you're growing. You don't know how successful you're going to be at that location. So while we often encourage, and I, by the way, mathematically will still go through and tell you buying is better, particularly a small business where you can put it in your own LLC, pay rent to yourself, but you control what that rent is, which you see Hooters out of business, RIP Hooters, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah, RIP.
But yet another large restaurant that's paying overpriced rents that they can't afford. But if you
Red Lobster,
yeah, that's why everybody says it was unlimited shrimp, but it was really Red Lobster. The buildings were being sold.
Right, let's stop for a minute. You guys actually have way too much inside knowledge.
Sorry.
For a lot of us, we probably don't know what happened. So Red Lobster, for all of us, was a place we all went to because
famous name,
the cheesy biscuits.
Of course, we had cheddar biscuits.
That's right.
Oh man,
cheesy, and that was our once every 2 years we get to go there. Growing up, so Red Lobster goes out of business, right? Because that was the fancy place to go. And the narrative right now is they got bought by a shrimp company and they did the endless shrimp, and the endless shrimp took them out of business.
That is part of it, but the big part that they don't talk about nearly as much what they often owned their own real estate. And owning your own real estate is a good hedge against the up and downs of whatever the vagaries of the market, right? So because you've been building equity in it every year, paying that payment. And so what they did though is, hey, we can get a bunch of money now, and this is the private equity group or whatever that bought it one of the times because it was multiple times. I think it's been bought and sold. But one of the things they did was we can sell this real estate. And granted, this is another mistake that I think that we've seen some investors make, that it sounds great. I've got a 10-year lease or a 15-year lease with Red Lobster, Walgreens, example today. Tons of them are being shuttered. The Hooters, I guess. I don't know the situation specifically on that. But what somebody buys a piece of property and goes, gosh, I've got this well-established brand. It's been here forever. Yeah, my return isn't very good, but it's a guaranteed return, and I've got it for the next, hopefully, 40 years. 10 years left on the lease, 7 years left on the lease. Great. They don't consider what might happen because it was an overmarket rent and then the property goes out of business. Walgreens has happened a bunch. Red Lobster was one that's been, I can tell you, has been defined as they basically just said, we'll sign this lease at way more than we're supposed to. So let's just say the market's $20 a square foot. I don't know, it's probably more than that, but we'll say it's 20.
All right.
They'd say, Red Lobster will sign a lease for 30 because we control it right now. We still own the real estate. We'll sell it to these people at a 5 cap, which is essentially a 20 times your yearly cash flow, deal. Somebody goes, great, I'll just get this. I'll just sit on it and I'll get my 5% forever. Well, now Red Lobster's filing bankruptcy and a lot of the leases get canceled. And
yeah,
right.
It was catastrophic, right?
Catastrophic.
Because the operating concern was not doing what it needed to do.
So, well, no,
right?
The operating concern now is paying $30 rents when they should be paying for the market 20, and you put them out of business because so there was the unlimited shrimp was part of it, but it's also they were paying leases at rates above market in order to sell the building above market that they shouldn't have paid. Now, the people who did that probably cashed in, sold out, left, and sold to the next group or whatever. But the reality is
so before you guys go, I want to talk about trends. Here we are. We're 24. Interest rates are high. Mortgages suck. Bankers suck.
Yeah.
All this stuff sucks.
Yeah.
What should we do? I know it all depends.
I want to caveat. There's a couple of good bankers out there.
There are.
Yeah.
You guys know who they are?
Yep.
You know what? Email me, Chris@thetrustedtoolbox.com, and I'll get you those bankers along with those deceitful practices that you should be following. That's what you want to hear, really. Come on. All right. So let's say we're an established business or we're thinking, man, we're going to scale. I mean, I think, especially in home services, I think 25 will be a good year. By the way, 24 is not compared to 23 for me. And I'm hearing that from everybody because everybody's pulled back so hard because of the year that we've had and the long run we've had after COVID of working on your homes. But the homes will continue.
Yeah, it kind of pulled forward all the demand, right? Everybody
exactly
did
right.
it already early.
Yeah. It's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I actually tell my guys, look, it's not you, it's them.
Yeah.
They
already got it done. It's kind of like I think paint sales went down a ton this year because everybody painted their house in 21.
Home Depot quarterly earnings. I watch these guys like a hawk.
Yeah.
They are starting to invest in other avenues because DIY spending is so down.
Yeah.
And DIY will stop soon. Not stop, but it will slow. But anyway, back to you guys. Can we?
I've been here the whole time, Chris.
Oh, okay. I just wonder. All right.
So sorry, I want to hear what Alan has to say about stuff.
I want to hear trends from our guests.
What kind of trends you want to know about?
I don't know. Should I buy?
So I think jeans are getting a little bit less skinny, a little bit more.
Nothing like 3 old white guys talking about.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's go back to trends of real estate. What should we be looking for? What do you guys think is hot? What do you think is not? I mean,
depends on when this episode's going to drop.
That's true. Because
you know what? When's it hot? When's it not? When's this episode going to drop? That's what I'm doing.
Are you rapping?
What were we just talking about? 3 white guys doing what?
Well, I figured if we're going to go all the way, we're going to go all the way. Come on, Beastie Boys.
Anyway, I think that one of the trends that we're looking at, and we've been waiting for a very long time, is that office, obviously, it's softened. And we do believe that there's going to be some more deals in real estate coming up because interest rates have been high for so long and they're not going down really anytime soon. So we think there's going to be some refinance issues with some real estate investors. And so we think there's going to be some opportunities for investing there. What we've noticed is that the death of retail was greatly exaggerated.
Yes.
Really?
In the sense that 2020, everybody's saying retail is just dead. Nobody's ever. It's actually stronger than ever. And by the way,
Super hot.
I'll speak a little bit.
All right, hang on
We'll
one
speak
minute.
a little more locally because I can't tell you a trend in San Francisco. And that's one thing we do always. We're honest about, like, I read the news and I'll pay attention to everything in the country, but the reality is real estate's local, right? It's still location. And so can't speak but to Georgia or to Roswell or to Atlanta, North Metro particularly, but we can speak to that a little bit
So
more.
people still want to walk into a place, feel a good, feel a product, and say, yes, I want to buy it.
So
not go Amazon.
Almost more so when it comes, but there's a very important distinction. People will go Amazon on a lot of the larger retailers, which is why Target hasn't been doing well. First of all, lots of theft, but also they will go in and price. They will just walk in, go, I like this, and I will Google it right now on Amazon and see it's cheaper, and I'll just order it. But they can't do that. The more local, higher end, and generally is more of the trend.
So if you're a local high end purveyor of goods or whatever, that's a great way to go. But if you're trying to compete with some low end brand or whatever,
just the mass, although Walmart's proved to be pretty successful, they're doing a lot better than Target. But
it's been really interesting watching retail because they predicted its death. You saw the death
I did
happening, and we've seen malls collapse. And then, but it's the amazing thing about business. It finds a way. And so big box stores are now pickleball courts. And then you still have franchise concepts, out the yin yang. And so it could be different food concepts or different kind of interactive things that you can't do on Amazon. And so there's just a ton of different ways that people are using retail space. So it's not that retail is super strong in the way that it was 10 years ago. It's just different. And it's really fun to see the evolution.
And I think,
the retail, that's a great trend. You guys talked about that. What else?
Industrial is still strong. There's still not enough in as far as the small box type industrial. I've got a, speaking of Amazon, I call it the Amazon effect. Is just I need 1,000 square feet of office with 5,000 square feet of warehouse so I can ship out whatever the crap I sell on Amazon or Etsy is. That's still very strong, particularly in Atlanta. I can speak to again.
Yeah, again, and we're talking Atlanta here, but again, you see local trends, and that's how you find them. But you know how you find these trends out? You get people like these guys to come talk to you. And I have a podcast with my buddy Alan, and we get to find out everything. And so, guess what? You're finding out shit too. You can find out too. Let's go. All right. So, you said Etsy, Amazon-ish.
Yeah.
Light industrial, you said was good. What's bad?
A giant office tower that is not very interesting.
Yeah, big old office tower that has old carpet. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of the B office in a major area, closer to downtown, the worse, right? So suburban office is still holding up pretty well, although still the dingy stuff not as much. But yeah, we just were reading articles on banks kind of not quite handing back, but doing a new loan for a new buyer on some Buckhead real estate, right? It's I think 150,000 square feet of space that was bought with a loan of $89 million about 6 years ago. Now the same bank is giving a loan of $62 million this year to a new buyer, which means there's no way it was paid down that much. They're taking a haircut, right? They're taking a loss. Truist is taking a loss in this case. It's public.
So 89 minus 62.
Well, they probably paid it down over 6 years, some or whatever. But the reality is it's negative, whatever, because Truist just went, fine, I'll take this new buyer. They're stronger, and we'll just do it at a new level, and I'm going to write off 10 million. I'm just guessing what that amount is. So that's not where you want to be. It doesn't mean that office is dead completely. It doesn't mean that nobody's ever going back there. There's still a very strong push to go back there a good portion of the week, at least 3 days. It's still not dead, but you better be not just the dud space, right? You better not be shag carpet. I don't know, whatever.
Because what's weird is Class A office space is death right now, but I don't know what's above
Class A plus. Yeah,
Class A
plus is doing great.
record rents.
So if you're the tech firm that wants to be really super hip and cool, that has, I don't know, they might have hot tubs there. I don't know what they have in these.
And they're right next to a desirable area, the Beltline here in
Yeah.
Atlanta, that kind of thing.
Right.
And they're getting record rents.
So those are still getting record rents. But
Again, location.
But if you're just
and that's
below
when you guys
that,
help
though,
us, though, right?
yeah.
When we get in, depending on what we do, because I'm a handyman, I don't need to be next to the belt line. That does not drive. I got to be low cost because I'm coming to your house.
And specifically, that's the world that I think is important, is the, that industrial world, or world where it doesn't matter as much. We will help you focus on, if it doesn't matter that much, don't pay for it, because people still get enamored with it looks cool. And if it doesn't actually matter for your business, if it's not a retail storefront that somebody's going to walk by on the Beltline, well, then you need people to walk by on the Beltline.
I watched one of my buddies do this, and he won't listen to this podcast either because he has shuttered 3 roofing businesses. But one of his roofing businesses,
Wait, he's going back, dog returning to the vomit,
Yeah.
huh?
oh my God! But he had to put it on Jimmy Carter in a great place with a great storefront.
Yeah.
And amazing. He built this amazing facade. I'm like, what do you do? Nobody buys roofing, especially in your location.
Don't care.
They don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't go to that office.
No.
And that's a great question. And
people
that, see,
driving by there are not the ones you want to sell your roofs to anyway.
and
You're
getting
always
back
work.
to your original question of what kind of questions do I need to ask? I mean, those are really important things. Do I really need to be where the public can see me? Do I need to be close to my customers, or do I need to be close to my employees? I mean, those are all really critical.
And employees, we are finding, is one of the most important parts, right? If you want them to come to the office, you damn well better be close to them.
I think that's been that's Chad, you hit on a great line that I have not told many people. So I moved my business. I definitely wanted to stay right here where we are, and you guys are by my house.
The gated country club community.
Yeah, I had to show my ID. Are you kidding?
Yeah. Well,
I still haven't.
we want to
played
make sure
golf.
riffraff doesn't come. In
I
fact,
haven't played
they
golf here,
actually
by the
called me on you, Chad, and says, "You all right?" I said, "Just for today."
He's got 2 hours.
In 2 hours, get him out.
And then if he's not out, go get him. So I moved right by my main artery, one of the main thoroughfares here, 85, 75. We have all the interstates. And so I moved there. The only one who complains about the move that I made 5 years ago was me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
my
good.
my
That's the
guys
right,
love it.
That's the right
I've kept
decision,
people-
though. Yeah,
My
as a
tenure
business
of
owner,
my handyman right now, when I first started, was 2 months. Today, it's 7 years.
Wow.
And that, yeah, we haven't talked about this, have we? Yeah, because of my onboarding process, the hiring process, and now you have 15 handymen. These guys average tenure is 7 years.
That's awesome.
And I've only been in business for 16. So that's great. That's awesome. Yeah. But again, of course, feed my ego. Back to what you guys just talked about was
You're the best.
thank you, Chad.
You're so smart, Chris.
I am. But it's that
Those
location.
people are so lucky to work
I
for
bow
you.
down in
they-
your presence.
They actually should be.
I know.
you know-
They should pay you to work for you.
They should be.
Just for the privilege.
All right, we got to go back to this. So I think those are the questions, guys. If you haven't figured that out, that we don't know what to ask, and that's where I would tell you, I'm humbled with these guys. When Chad starts spewing out all of his numbers, I mean, he's throwing numbers. I'm trying to write them down. I'm like, I have no idea. But you know what I do know? I do know he knows them. That's why you pay that 3% to go where you want to go. That's why you have somebody help you with something else. We always talk about this, right? As you build your business, what you're not good at, offload.
Mhm.
Find another way, because you're best at selling. You're best at selling your business. You've got to go out there and do that. Go out there and sell that bathroom. That'll pay for the 3%. And who gives a shit if they're getting 3%?
And it's not necessarily 3%, just officially on,
Well, I know.
on the record.
It's
Well,
on
I
the
know.
record.
Yeah.
That's true. It is not written. And there's
Well,
that.
all right. So let's bring that up, because this year they brought it up in the real estate thing that the 3% or the 6%.
We don't even know. We don't do residential. So I don't
You
even
follow
know.
that.
I don't even know how it affects us. It's everything we ever do is disclosed, and with everybody knows exactly how much is getting paid. So we don't even
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
About
Our
it.
clients
Granted,
know.
that was true, I think, of the residential world. It's just a different world. So,
Guys,
Yeah.
Parting comments. I mean, I'm going to do the four questions. What would you leave somebody with that's just going to just blow their minds? blow my mind.
Oh, cool. You just pull it the last second.
Yeah.
Blow
Thanks
their
for
mind.
that, Chris.
And Alan can do it.
Alan, I would like to hear this. Now, I'm going to say nothing's going to blow anybody's mind, but I'm I can't describe how important it is that everybody wins in a logical, fair transaction. I just want everybody to feel good about it. And it doesn't mean that nobody is in a bad situation, but maybe they got out, in the best way possible. But I think there's nothing I like better than a closing where everybody's laughing their ass off and just having fun. And to me, that's better than the check. And that's true.
That's a mic drop right there.
That is a mic drop. I heard leave 5 cents on the table.
Yeah,
And your grandfather
Paul,
told you that.
Paul Grubb.
Paul Grubb dropped it, man. World's greatest generation.
Rest in peace.
Don't leave those ideals. Don't leave. They're all coming back. That's the thing I love. But I love what you said. I love that you said everybody's going to laugh at the table. If you've ever seen me to any closing, I always have to be pissed.
Crying.
No, I'm always mad. I'm completely always mad. And
Are you serious?
Because
do we need to work this out a little bit?
It's therapist. It's therapy, baby. I mean, I'm always mad. I never feel like I get the best deal.
Tell me about your mother.
Right? It's so bad. It's so bad. And with that, everybody, look, you can go through life being mad like me, or you can be happy like these two. Don't work with a clown. Work with real people. We got to get going. Get up the mountaintop. Let's go make it happen. We're out of here.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.